Get ready, Padres fans. It's time for the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Tatis at third, 2 outs. Fernando takes off. He's going to steal home without a play.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, and our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today the Padres take on the Los Angeles Dodgers in the second game of a 2-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the Dodgers, left-hander Clayton Kershaw, and for the Padres, right-hander Dylan Cease. Hi again everyone, Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park. First pitch coming up at 5:40 as we get ready for the final game of this short 2-game set. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, you'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We hear from a couple of the newest Padres, Bryan Hoeing and Tanner Scott. Plus, we hear from Manny Machado a little bit later as well. And in just a few minutes, we check in with Tony Gwynn Jr. But first, let's set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa, Vista, and Oceanside. Padres entered today 58-51. Padres have won 8 out of their last 9 games. They entered today tied with the New York Mets for the National League's second wildcard spot. Padres are also 5.5 games behind the Dodgers for first place in the NL West. The Padres are 6-3 against LA this season. They would win the season series between these two teams if they pick up a win here tonight. Meanwhile, the Dodgers come in 63-46. Dodgers have not been great for the last month or so, just 12-14 in their last 26 games. They've also dropped 10 of their last 13 road games. Well, the Padres fell behind early yesterday at Petco Park, but as they've done so often here in 2024, the Padres battled back.
How did the Padres fare in their last game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind. Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
The Dodgers scored 5 runs in the top of the first against Matt Waldron. It was still 5-0 as we went to the bottom half of the second. Tyler Glass now back to work for LA. Manny Machado led off.
It was a nice little return over the weekend. Stings this one in the air, deep to center field. Padres is back, looking up, gonna go! Line drive, home run to the right of the palm tree, out in center field. Manny Machado with his 15th of the year, and the Padres are on the board here in the second inning.
Padres then got a 2-out rally going in the third. Luis Arraez hit a double. Jurickson Profar was next.
Profar leans back in the left-handed batter's box, hits this one hard on the ground through the right side, base hit. Arraez rounding third. Hayward unleashes a throw. No chance. RBI single, Jurickson Profar. And now a 5-2 game here in the third.
Padres weren't done as Jake Cronenworth dug in.
Here's the 1-0. Cronenworth hits it hard over the head of the first baseman Biggio. Down the right field line into the corner. Profar is racing towards third base. He is going to be set. The throw comes into Lux. Relay to the plate. Not in time. RBI double, Jake Cronenworth. And a 2-run game here in the third.
Matt Waldron and the Padres bullpen somehow kept it 5-3 all the way until the bottom half of the 9th inning. Blake Treinen came on for the save opportunity. Manny Machado led off again.
A lot of history between these two. First pitch on the way. Machado swings, hits it in the air, deep to left field. Teoscar Hernandez will watch, and it's going to go! A long home run for Machado. His second of the night, and a 1-run game in the bottom of the 9th inning. A first pitch home run for Manny Machado.
2 batters later, it was time for some Merrill madness.
Merrill swings, hits it in the air, deep to right field. Pages is back. He is at the wall. It's going to go!
You better believe it. We were talking about it before the game. This young man enjoys this moment, and he steps into it and owns it. Solo shot has tied this ball game at 5, and it's a new ball game.
We went to extras. Robert Suarez tossed a 1-2-3 top of the 10th inning. The Padres loaded the bases. In the bottom half, the Padres went to pinch hitter Donovan Solano.
Ball and 2 strikes. Here's the pitch on the way. Solano swings, hits a ground ball past the dive of Hernandez, down the left field line to win it. Kim scores, Solano walks it off, and the Padres come back from a 5-0 deficit to beat the Dodgers in 10.
What a game, what an ending here at Petco Park. The Padres winning last night, another walk-off win, their 7th of the season. Now the Padres go for a 2nd consecutive win against LA. As we get ready for first pitch coming up at 5:40, let's go inside the Jerry Coleman Broadcast Center.
Let's go inside the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup from Tony Gwynn Jr. in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Tony, before we focus on today's matchup, let's revisit a couple of elements from last night's win. Donovan Solano obviously pinch hitting in the bottom half of the 10th inning, gets behind in the count 1-2, makes it look easy, delivers the big swing to win it for the Padres. Tony, for fans out there that maybe don't realize some of the intricacies, the difficulties of coming off the bench after you've been sitting for 9-10 innings, when you come off the bench like that, how difficult is that as a player to do what Solano did last night?
I think it's the hardest thing to do in baseball. Coming off the bench, typically against a back-end arm that you're going to face. And you know, in that case, you don't. This is your only opportunity. You don't get another 3 at-bats in this game to kind of work through some things. You got to do it and come through then. And it's the hardest thing to do in baseball. But the thing that gives you confidence in a guy like Donovan Solano is that at-bat looks exactly like his at-bats do when he starts. He's generally not going to swing first pitch. He's going to see what it has to offer, and he kind of takes what the pitcher gives him from there. And he's just such a perfect guy for that spot. I know he talked about it after the game, it being difficult, not playing a lot and trying to keep your rhythm. But it's safe to say he's done a fantastic job of that so far.
And Solano rewarded with a spot in the lineup here today playing first base. Also has very good numbers against Clayton Kershaw in his career. Yeah. We'll talk about Kershaw in just a second. I want to ask you about Jackson Merrill, because looking back at the replay, the home run in the 9th inning last night, Tony, that was an inside pitch that Merrill sort of opened up on, and he hit a moonshot to right field. He has the ability to hit the outside pitch to left, but also really has, it feels like, improved on taking that pitch on the inner part of the plate. What have you noticed with Jackson, the inner part of the plate, what he's done as of late?
I just think he has gotten better at knowing what pitchers are going to do. So I don't necessarily think he opened up on that. I just think he saw the pitch out of the hand well and took a good whack. And that's what Jackson does, whether it's a soft liner to left, a hard ground ball up the middle, or him running into a homer like that. I think he's just such a smart hitter. He makes adjustments, pretty quickly. And that was a mistake. You can't leave a pitch up in the zone like that, even if it was in. Right. In that situation, you just can't miss. It was a cutter that didn't cut enough. And quite frankly, that is where we've seen Jackson do most of his damage. Pitches elevated, middle to in. He's done a good job. No different. It was no different last night.
Tony, let's talk about this pitching matchup. A really good one here tonight. Before we get to Mr. No-Hitter, Dylan Cease, let's talk about the veteran, the future Hall of Famer, Clayton Kershaw, making just the 2nd start of the season after having shoulder surgery in the offseason. Obviously a guy the Padres have seen a ton of over the years. To you, what are the keys for the Padres offense tonight against Kershaw?
I mean, it depends, right? I mean, if Clayton is the Clayton that we have grown accustomed to seeing, and that's even without the velocity that he's lost over the year, you're kind of at the mercy of what he's doing, right? If you got to take what he's giving you, he's good enough, he commands the ball well enough to where you're not just going to go up there and get on a normal day against him. You're not going to go up there and just get cookies in the middle of the plate. You're going to have to earn mistakes that you might get in the middle, because for the most part you're going to have to deal with that that slider, that fastball pinpoint, and he still got the curveball to go along with it. So I just think the Padres stay with their approach. They've had a lot of success, whether it's been a number 1 or number 5 at the back end of a rotation, doing it and approaching it the way they have. I don't think it should change just because Clayton's on the mound.
Dylan Cease coming off last week's no-hitter in Washington, D.C., and even beyond that, Tony, he has been so dominant as of late. His last 22 innings, they're all scoreless, and he's given up just 2 hits. So let's start with that. The last 3 outings, including the no-hitter, what's been so special about Dylan Cease?
Fastball command. It's that simple for Dylan. When he's commanding his fastball, that slider that's, in the high 80s, low 90s, that curveball that he can, that knuckle curve he can get over, all of that, it becomes more enhanced. And he throws the slider at different shapes, right? He's got a little short one he throws. He's got a bigger one that he tries to put you away with. But he can only get to those pitches in the fashion he wants to when he's working ahead and he's got his fastball command. So to me, the last 3 starts have been indicative of his fastball command being better.
Tony, let's finish up with this, staying on Dylan Cease and the Padres pitching staff today. You look at this Dodgers lineup, they've got Ohtani at the top, but right now they're without Mookie Betts, they're without Freddie Freeman. They've got some guys struggling in this lineup. If you're Dylan Cease, you're Ruben Niebla, you're the Padres pitching staff, how are you game planning for this lineup right now for the Dodgers with the way it looks, at least right now?
I mean, listen, this ball club is not, they're without Mookie, they're without Freddie Freeman. So it's a different lineup, but they still have the same principles in terms of their offense when it's going right looks a lot like the Padres do, right? They see a bunch of pitches, they foul a bunch of pitches off, they force you to throw a lot of them, and so I think for Dylan, he can't worry about what it is that the Dodgers have or don't have. He's got to attack to his strengths and just be mindful of missing in the middle. The Dodgers are one of the best teams when you make mistakes in the middle of the plate, they generally don't miss them. So, and we saw that in the first inning yesterday, in last night's game with Matt Waldron. So, it's more about what Dylan needs to do, I think, to go out and have success. He's in that same tier as a Clayton Kershaw, right? I mean, those are the type of pitchers when they're on the mound, you're at their mercy. You are taking what they give you, and I think Dylan Cease fits into that category too.
All right, Tony, very good stuff as always. We'll talk to you and Jesse coming up at 5:30. Thanks so much.
No problem, Sam.
All right, that's Tony Gwynn Jr. joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for the second game of this short 2-game series between the Padres and the LA Dodgers. We have a lot to do between now and first pitch. We'll hear from Manny Machado coming up a little bit later. We'll also hear from the new Padre relievers Bryan Hoeing and Tanner Scott. Plus, when we come back, we hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. As always, if you want to get involved on our pregame coverage, you can do that in a number of different ways. You can tweet at me at Sammy Lev, SammyLev. Instagram DM's open as well. Sammy Lev there too. Let me know who you are, where you're tuned in from. May give you a shout out here on the air. And as always, if you want to share your key to today's game against the Dodgers, let me know what that is, and I may just read it on the air. First pitch coming up at 5:40. Our pregame coverage continues after this on the Padres Radio Network. Welcome back to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. Your water perfected. EcoWater SoCal. Your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park as we walk you up towards first pitch coming up at 5:40 here in downtown San Diego. Padres taking on the LA Dodgers. Great pitching matchup here tonight between Dylan Cease and Clayton Kershaw. Let's hear from the Padre manager, Mike Shildt.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
It was a busy day for the Padres as far as roster moves, with 3 players arriving and reporting to the Padres. Of course, the Padres trading for Tanner Scott and Bryan Hoeing, the 2 relievers from Miami. Yesterday, Martin Perez also acquired from the Pittsburgh Pirates. So those 3 players reported to the Padres today. They have been activated as of today. The 3 corresponding moves to make room on the 26-man roster. Austin Davis, left-hander out of the bullpen. He was designated for assignment. They also optioned right-hander Logan Gillespie to AAA El Paso. Padres also putting right-hander Stephen Kolek on the 15-day IL with right forearm tendinitis. So those were the slew of moves earlier today. Again, Perez, Scott, and Hoeing, they are on the roster and off the 26-man right now. Davis, Gillespie, and Kolek. With all that in mind, and the Padres having some new faces in that bullpen, here was Padre manager Mike Shildt before today's game.
It's nice to have these guys here physically now. No orders, Scott, Perez, and Hoeing all showed today, big smiles on their faces and excited and eager to get going to help us.
It seems like it would help that they have some familiar faces in this clubhouse with Luis and having each other over here.
Yeah, no, I know Luis and Perez are close, Luis speaks very highly and favorably, and it's good to have that. As you mentioned, you walk into a clubhouse and you got somebody that you're, feel comfortable and have a relationship with that helps the transition.
Have you had a chance to talk with Tanner yet about his role on the ball club right now?
I've talked to Tanner briefly, but, wanted to get him acclimated, let him get settled in a little bit, and then after batting practice, we'll talk about his role.
He seemed like he was open to doing whatever. I mean, his attitude is, I want to win a championship, so I'm ready whenever the phone rings. I guess that's pretty much what you want to hear.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want to hear. And, I was actually talking to Crony earlier today, too, and it's like, we're not going to feel the need to do that a lot, but anybody can say, whatever it takes, I want to win, but when you actually have it happen to you and then you have a good attitude about it, that's what speaks volumes, and that's what winning teams do. He came over and stood right beside me yesterday after it happened, and, the competitor in him obviously wants the opportunity. So what I'm getting at is, Tanner and Jason and all these guys have been tremendous, and our guys that have been in-house with certain roles, with Estrada and Morejon, they pitched down game last night. Suarez, everybody's been fantastic about, greater good mentality, which it's important.
That's something that you preached back in spring training, and I think was demonstrated maybe by Xander, was the first example of that in terms of him embracing the second base role, and it seems like maybe just seeing that has carried over with some of the other guys as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm glad you brought that up. It starts in spring training, the messaging, but it also starts in people's actions. Again, people can say whatever they want, but Bogey was willing to accept an opportunity to go to second base, let a teammate go play a strength position at shortstop in Kimmy. Did it with a great attitude, and really set the tone for everybody to recognize that this is bigger than any one person. So, kudos to Bogey. It's the reason he's won 2 World Series.
How much are you looking forward to this matchup today? Dylan Cease, obviously the way he's been throwing the ball, going against a for sure future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. This is going to be another good one. We got Dylan going today, get an extra day, and I know he's excited. And of course, they got Clayton on the other side, who, as you said, it's a Hall of Fame career that still going, to his credit. So it'll be a fun matchup.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt. Before today's game, we'll hear more from Mike on our post-game show coming up later on this evening as the Padres go for another win against the LA Dodgers. First pitch coming up at 5:40 here at Petco Park. Before we get to who's hot, who's not, let's quickly pause for Station ID on the Padres Radio Network.
KWFN-FM and KWFN HD1 San Diego.
This is Xander Bogaerts. The Padres play here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
An Odyssey Sports Station.
Sam Levitt with you inside the Western Metal Building here at Petco Park as we get ready for today's game. Everybody having a good time inside at the Western Metal Building on what is a beautiful Wednesday early evening. Here at America's finest city, we have fans drinking beers, enjoying mixed drinks, some food. I see, I think the Spiro's Mediterranean Grill. One of their platters, somebody enjoying one of the many great food items you can get here at Petco Park. That's down on the third base side, sort of toward the left field corner on the lower level of the stadium. Try it. I've not tried it yet, but I will before this season comes to an end. Let's tell you who's hot, who's not as we get ready for tonight's game.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
We begin with a look at the hot categories. Xander Bogaerts in the midst of a 9-game hitting streak. Since returning from the IL, Bogaerts is hitting .469 in a 12-game span, going back to May 12th. Before Xander was on the IL, a span of 19 games, he's hitting .419 with a .1037 OPS. Jackson Merrill, also in the hot category, hitting .371 in his last 9 games with 4 doubles, a home run, and a triple in that span, 7 RBIs in his last 9 games. Luis Arraez at the top of the Padres lineup in the midst of a 10-game hitting streak, batting .341 in that span. Jurickson Profar batting .344 in his last 32 at-bats, 4 home runs and 9 RBIs in those 32 ABs. For the Dodgers, a couple of guys in the hot category. Gavin Lux batting .483 in his last 10 games, 3 home runs, 4 doubles, 9 RBIs in those 10. Austin Barnes, backup catcher for the Dodgers, but as we saw yesterday, Dave Roberts has not been shy to pinch hit him when it makes sense, and when he's been in there, he swung the bat well. 15 for his last 36, batting .417 going back to late June, albeit in limited playing time. The not category. We take a look at one Padre that is not in the lineup today. That's Jake Cronenworth. Donovan Solano instead playing first base. Like we said, and we'll get a little bit more into it later, he has very good career numbers against Clayton Kershaw. Cronenworth is just 4 for his last 34, but he did have an RBI double in last night's game. 3 Dodgers to keep an eye on in the not category. Will Smith is just 1 for 22 in his last 6 games. James Outman just 2 for his last 20. Jason Hayward just 4 for his last 30. Hayward is in the lineup for the Dodgers today. Outman is not. Will Smith is in there batting second behind Shohei Ohtani. And that's a look at who's hot, who's not as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 5:40. When we come back on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, we'll go inside the Padres clubhouse. We'll hear from new relievers Tanner Scott and Bryan Hoeing. Plus, coming up a little bit later, we hear from Padres third baseman Manny Machado. First pitch coming up at 5:40 on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park on an absolutely gorgeous early evening here in America's finest city. First pitch coming up at 5:40 as the Padres wrap up this short two-game series against the LA Dodgers. Padres winning a thriller in walk-off fashion last night. Padres have won 8 out of 9, trying to keep the good times rolling. Let's give you the latest injury notes on Joe Musgrove and also an update on one of the new Padres starters.
Who's in, who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit him up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Let's quickly revisit what we talked about earlier. Right-hander Stephen Kolek was put on the 15-day injured list today with right forearm tendinitis. Kolek has been a pretty important part of the Padres bullpen this season, but he's on the 15-day IL now. So that was the news earlier today on the Padre bullpen. We did get an update on Joe Musgrove earlier today from Mike Shildt. Shildt saying that Musgrove will likely pitch on Sunday with one of the team's minor league affiliates. So that's certainly very good news as Joe Musgrove takes another step seemingly on Sunday in his rehab process. We also had an update, not really injury news, but an update on Martin Perez, who joined the Padres today officially. Mike Shildt saying earlier today there's a good chance that the newly acquired lefty will pitch this weekend against the Colorado Rockies. So that's what it looks like. Musgrove pitching Sunday at one of the affiliates on a minor league rehab assignment. Martin Perez sounds like he'll start one of the games this weekend. Kolek on the IL. And that's a look at our latest injury news for the Padres as they get ready for this one against the LA Dodgers. Well, one of the players the Padres traded for at the deadline yesterday, of course, Tanner Scott was the headliner of that trade with the Miami Marlins. He's been one of the better left-handed relievers in baseball the last couple of seasons. But also joining Scott on the way from Miami to San Diego, right-hander Bryan Hoeing, whose numbers with Miami this year in the major leagues very solid. A 2.70 ERA in 16 appearances, 2 starts, 30 innings total for Hoeing. Bryan Hoeing spoke with the media earlier today inside the Padres clubhouse. Here was Hoeing on how it feels to be in San Diego.
I'm excited for this opportunity here with a world-class organization. I'm ready to get after it.
Were you surprised? Did you know a trade was coming? Did it catch you off guard? And your thoughts on the Padres being the team that you go to?
Yeah, I think I was a little unexpected. I didn't know if I was going to get traded or not. There was definitely rumors around. I never really saw my name anywhere, so definitely caught me off guard. But overall, I'm excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to this opportunity with the Padres and making a little postseason push here at the end.
Does it help that there's a couple of familiar faces? I mean, Tanner's coming over, Luis.
Yeah, it's like a little comfort blanket, I'd like to say, Luis and Tanner. So I'm not here alone, so I got these two guys, but I'm really excited to meet everybody else along with this team.
Your thoughts on what your role might be? Are you any discussions with anybody yet?
Yeah, I'm going to be a swing guy, long relief. Kind of like what I was doing in Miami as well, just kind of bouncing around between roles. I think there's value in that. Start if there's a pinch with the starter, maybe you have a little spot start, long relief, just a little bit of everything. That's kind of what I've always done and what I'm used to.
It's not always the easiest job, but to your point, it's super valuable.
Right.
I mean, is there some satisfaction knowing what you're able to provide the team?
Yeah, definitely not easy at times. Just kind of bouncing around between roles throughout the year. It's basically my role is no role, I like to say. So I'm used to it at this point. So I've had some years of experience of it, and I'm just kind of roll with it.
You wrapped your heads around what the composure of the bullpen looks like, adding, yourself, Adam, Scott, to Suarez.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to think we're in good hands. Watching Tanner all year, I can't speak for anybody else, but watching Tanner all year has been a pleasure. What he does day in and day out is phenomenal, and he's one of a kind. He makes baseball look very easy at times. But I mean, with Tanner in there and the back end of the bullpen, I think we're in good hands.
Obviously, in addition to Tanner, you also have another former teammate in Luis Ariz here. What's it like to reunite with him?
Oh, it's great. It's great. Obviously, it brings back memories from last year with that postseason run that the Miami Marlins had. And Tanner and Luis were a huge part of our run. Obviously, Ariz had a hell of a year. So did Tanner. So, seeing those guys again brings back memories from last year. Just kind of nostalgic a little bit, but I'm excited to start this new journey here with them.
You heard Bryan Hoeing there talk about Tanner Scott. We'll hear from Scott in just a moment. As we get ready for first pitch coming up at 5:40 between the Padres and the Dodgers, let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the Bigs and tell you about the scores you need to know in our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Meat, where great taste meets integrity.
We have a number of finals already today across the major leagues. Red Sox beat the Mariners 3-2 in 10 innings. Rafael Devers a home run in that game at Fenway. Diamondbacks beat the Nationals 5-4 in Arizona. Cardinals beat the Rangers 10-1 in St. Louis. Royals beat the White Sox 10-3 in Chicago. The White Sox losing a 17th consecutive game. Unbelievable. 27-84 now. The record for the Chicago White Sox. Braves beat the Brewers 6-2 in Milwaukee. Matt Olson, Travis d'Arnaud with back-to-back home runs in that game. Orioles beat the Blue Jays 10-4 in Baltimore. Jackson Holliday, the highly touted prospect for the O's, he had a grand slam in that game, his first major league home run. The Yankees held on to beat the Phillies 6-5 in Philadelphia. DJ LeMahieu had a grand slam in that game, and he collected 6 RBIs, all of the 6 runs the Yankees scored in that one. Marlins beat the Rays 6-2 in Tampa Bay. The Twins also beat the Mets 8-3 in New York. Games going on right now. Cubs 6, Reds nothing in the 4th inning in Cincinnati. Pirates and the Astros are scoreless in the 1st inning in Houston. Games yet to begin. A couple of them aside from this one in San Diego. Rockies and the Angels coming up in a little bit in Anaheim. A's and the Giants at 6:45 in San Francisco. And that's a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Wednesday across the major leagues. That time of year. Final day of July. It's hard to keep track of what day of the week it is, but it is a Wednesday. Padres have an off day tomorrow. Then they welcome in the Colorado Rockies for the start of a 3-game series beginning on Friday night here at Petco Park. Well, the headliner of yesterday's action for the Padres at the trade deadline, the acquisition of left-hander Tanner Scott, who has been one of the best left-handed relievers in baseball the last couple of seasons. His numbers this year, just terrific. A 1.18 ERA in 44 appearances, 45 2/3 innings. Scott, in those 45-plus innings, has struck out 53. Tanner Scott, how does it feel to be a San Diego Padre?
Oh, it feels great. It feels great. I mean, especially coming with that guy over there, it's an awesome feeling. And then I got to see Louis arrive, so that's a great sight.
Does that help coming over to a new ball club, but having some familiar faces in the clubhouse right away?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you faced a lot of them. Now you're teammates, so it's kind of cool.
Luis mentioned that you were one of his best friends on the Marlins. What's it like to be back with him, and how long until he FaceTimed you yesterday when the trade went down?
Oh, yeah. He tried calling me. I was like, Louis, not right now. And then I texted him this morning, and I mean, he's a great guy, and he's a really happy guy to be around. So it was great to see him, and I gave him a big hug when I got to see him.
And what stands out to you about this Padres team from afar? Like, what jumped out when you found out that you were going to be a Padre?
Everyone here is really good, and we got a chance to win this whole thing, and that's what we're going to do.
You're an all-star closer. Suarez is an all-star closer. How do you see that, you guys working together, and how important is a role for you?
Whenever the phone rings, I'm ready. I mean, whatever role it is, it's whenever the phone rings, get your heart going and ready to go.
Is that, I mean, you're a free agent after the year. The market value saves. I mean, is there any thought about that, or is it still whatever?
No, I'm not even thinking about that. I mean, I'd rather win a World Series and not think about that, but I'm ready whenever the phone rings.
That was Tanner Scott earlier today inside the Padres clubhouse. We'll see when Hoeing and Scott make their Padres debuts. We'll see if that's today or maybe this upcoming weekend against the Rockies. Padres taking on the Dodgers coming up at 5:40 here at Petco Park. Let's give you our keys to today's game.
How will the Padres unlock a victory in today's game? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Honor Buick GMC Hummer in National City.
Key number 1, more Merrill madness. Jackson Merrill is batting .387 with a .922 OPS and 31 at-bats against the Dodgers this season. Merrill hit the game-tying home run in last night's win. Can Jackson Merrill make some more magic happen here tonight? That's key number 1. Key number 2, capitalizing on matchups against Kershaw. A couple of Padres who have very good career numbers against Clayton Kershaw. Manny Machado batting .325 lifetime against Kershaw in 40 at-bats with 4 home runs against the left-hander. Donovan Solano in the lineup today for the Padres, batting 5th, playing first base. Jake Cronenworth getting a day off. Solano batting .400 in 30 at-bats with 4 doubles in his career against Clayton Kershaw. Key number 3, limiting Shohei Ohtani again. Since Mookie Betts fractured his left hand after getting hit by a pitch in June, Shohei Ohtani has been the Dodgers' leadoff man. Ohtani leads the National League, a .311 batting average, .402 on-base percentage, .633 slug, .1034 OPS, 32 home runs, 83 runs scored, and oh, by the way, he's stolen a base in 4 consecutive games and now has 28 on the year. He's on pace for a 40 home run, 40 stolen base season, getting through Ohtani at the very top of the Dodger lineup. That's a big key. The Padres walked him and he scored a run in the first inning last night, but otherwise, he was 0 for 4. One thing to keep in mind, though, tonight, Shohei Ohtani is 3 for 11 lifetime against Dylan Cease. 2 of those hits are home runs, but limiting Ohtani, a key tonight. The Padres did that in yesterday's game. That's key number 3. And key number 4, the Dylan Cease slider. It's no secret Dylan Cease has a great slider, but it has been especially dominant as of late. Opponents are just 1 for 42 with 21 strikeouts against Cease's slider in his last 3 starts. We'll see if Dylan can get that slider working again here today. That's a look at our keys to the game. When we come back at our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, we'll hear from the third baseman, Manny Machado, plus we dive even deeper into today's pitching matchup, a good one between Dylan Cease and Clayton Kershaw. First pitch coming up at 5:40 in downtown San Diego on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the Western Metal Building here at Petco Park as we get ready for today's game. First pitch coming up at 5:40. We'll hear from Manny Machado in just a moment. First, let's tell you what to watch for.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game. Can the Padres get to this LA bullpen once again? The Dodger bullpen has been a major problem as of late. They've blown at 3 5-run leads in their last 13 games. Dodgers relievers have a 5.88 ERA since the All-Star break. They did add right-hander Michael Kopech at the deadline from the White Sox. We didn't see Kopech last night. He could make his Dodgers debut tonight. But assuming the Padres get into that bullpen, can they do damage against those relievers once again? That's what to watch for in today's game. Of course, on the mound in a starting capacity for the Padres, or I should say the Dodgers today, is left-hander Clayton Kershaw, somebody the Padres have seen a lot of over the years. So this is what I had to ask Manny Machado earlier today.
Manny, your lineup faces Clayton Kershaw tonight, obviously a future Hall of Famer. You've seen him a lot. What are the keys generally to facing a guy like Kershaw?
I mean, you know what he's going to bring. You know, he's a competitor. He's going to go out there and compete every single day. Every pitch he makes is going to be a competitive pitch. So he's not going to give in easily. So we got to go out there and just compete with him. I think at the end of the day, it's compete. We know he has good stuff. You know, he's going to go out there and pinpoint his pitches. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer for a reason, or a future Hall of Famer for a reason. And, we just got to go out there and just compete with him.
That was Manny Machado talking about Clayton Kershaw. Let's talk even more about Kershaw and Dylan Cease as we dive into our pitching matchup.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview. Presented by Chimney Sweeps, Inc., San Diego's trusted chimney and fireplace service company for 40 years. Call Chimney Sweeps, Inc. at 1-800-CHIMNEY or book an inspection online at chimneysweepsinc.com.
Right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres, 10-8, a 3.50 ERA in 22 starts, 131 innings, 168 strikeouts, 40 walks. Cease leads the majors in strikeouts. He ranks 7th in innings, 5th in opponent batting average at 191. He ranks 6th in whip at 098. Cease's last start against the Nationals, you might remember this, he threw a no-hitter, the second ever in the history of the San Diego Padres on 114 pitches. Cease has been almost unhittable in each of his last 3 starts. July 13th against Atlanta, 6 scoreless innings, 1 hit given up. July 20th in Cleveland, 7 innings, scoreless, 1 hit given up. His last 3 starts combined, 22 innings, no runs, 2 hits. He struck out 30. Cease has not faced the Dodgers this season. This will be his 3rd career start against LA. His 2 starts against them with the White Sox, a 1.80 ERA in 10 combined innings. The arsenal for Cease, the 4-seam fastball, the slider. He'll throw those 2 more than 85% of the time combined. Also mixes in the knuckle curve, the sweeper, and the changeup. Meanwhile, on the mound for the Dodgers, left-hander Clayton Kershaw, 36 years old, a 3-time Cy Young Award winner. This will be Kershaw's 2nd start of the season after he had shoulder surgery in the winter. Kershaw's first start came last week against the Giants. He went 4 innings, 2 earned runs given up, 6 hits. He struck out 6. He walked 2, 72 pitches. This will be Clayton Kershaw's 49th career start against the Padres, a 2.22 ERA in his career against them between the regular and postseason. Only faced the Padres once last season, gave up 4 runs on 8 hits in 4 2/3 innings, 2 home runs for Fernando Tatis Jr. in that game. The arsenal for Clayton these days, a 4-seam fastball, a slider, relies on those 2 heavily. Also will mix in that Bugs Bunny curveball and a changeup, and that's a look at our starting pitching matchup here today. Clayton Kershaw against Mr. No-Hitter Dylan Cease. You've been listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. SoCal.com. Padres playing some great baseball right now. They've won 8 of 9. Another dramatic come-from-behind win last night against the Dodgers. What do the Padres have in store here tonight in downtown San Diego? We're going to find out. When we come back, Jesse and Tony have the starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game show. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network.